Part 39. The Sweetness of the Seventies. Author, Chi Sing Cao. Chapter 383. 381. After lunch, He Tian played games with them. Seeing that the time was almost 5 o'clock, he said, "Jimmy, Amy, do you want to pick up your mother from get off work?" "I think so," Jimmy nodded. "Mom's place of work is not far away. Sometimes I hold my sister's hand and pick her up from get off work." "Okay, let's go there together and say hello to your mother. Angela and I are going back." "Okay," Jimmy and Amy replied at the same time. He Tian, Chi Jinmin, took Amy and Jimmy to check the house before locking the door and leaving. Walking on the sidewalk, shaded by trees, it's not too hot. The four of them were talking and laughing. After passing through this neighborhood, we arrived at the wealthy area. The buildings there are more elegant and the environment is more beautiful. At this time, there were several black cars moving forward on the road around me. He Tian turned sideways to protect the three children, just in time for the people in the car to see He Tian's face. "Miss," a lady in her 50s exclaimed, "look outside." But the car was driving a little too fast and had already passed He Tian by a long distance. "Stop, stop," the woman said to the driver in front of her. An elegantly dressed old lady next to her squinted her eyes and frowned. "Xianglin, what happened?" "I saw a young girl who looked very much like you when you were young," the Pandan woman said hurriedly. We arrived at the door immediately, and the driver happened to park the car at the door. "Look, miss, look, Chunlin has been serving the old lady since she was a child, so she has never changed her name and calls her miss." The elegant old woman was wearing a sapphire blue cheongsam, her grey hair was combed into a neat bun, with precious jade jewelry on it, and a very good Hessian jade bracelet on her wrist. Following Xianglin's hand, the old lady looked at the little girl not far away wearing a pink t-shirt, jeans, and sneakers. Ms. Brown came out with her bag and happened to see her son, daughter, He Tian and Chi Jinmin, who came to pick her up from get off work. "I have to go to work today, otherwise I will entertain you at home," Ms. Brown said with a hearty smile. "I will have a rest another day, and I will invite you again, okay?" "Okay," He Tian said. "Now Jimmy, Amy is left to you, we should go back." "See you another day." Ms. Brown smiled, waved her hand, and said goodbye to He Tian and Chi Jinmin. When Ms. Brown led the child away, Chi Jinmin pulled He Tian's arm and said, "Sister Tian, there are two grandmas over there who have been staring at you. Do you know them?" "Ah," He Tian was stunned. "Impossible, I have known your family since the first time I came to the United States." This is absolutely true. In her past life, she only came to the United States once, so she didn't know anyone there. "Oh," Chi Jinmin was dubious. "Okay, let's go," He Tian said. "If we go back too late, Grandma will be worried." After saying that, He Tian took Chi Jinmin's hand, walked back, and got into a car not far away. "Miss, do they look alike?" Chunlin asked. "Not only do they look alike from the front, but they also look alike when walking. There are many people who look alike in the world, so don't think too much about it." "It can't be." The old lady stopped. Subconsciously, she was also wondering if it was her granddaughter. "However, when I think about this, it reminds me of the past." "Miss, you." Xianglin knew her young lady best. She fell in love so passionately at that time, but both of them were aloof people. They quarreled over some trivial matters in life. Such a beautiful love was also lost in daily necessities. Wasted in tea. "It's all over." Bai Qianjia waved her hand. "Of course it was my father who asked me to go back, but it was also because I was tired of the life I lived at that time. The only thing I feel guilty about is my young son. I failed to fulfill my mother's responsibility and did not raise him personally. As for He Jinming, I can only say that we are suitable as lovers, not as husband and wife. Hey, Xianglin was greedy in her heart. God's will is playing tricks on people. The reason why the young lady didn't want to mention it was because she was afraid that remembering the past would only make her sad. But the young lady has been thinking about her son for so many years and has been sending people to inquire about his whereabouts, but she has not received reliable information until now. With He Jinming's stubbornness, he would not let the junior come to find the young lady. The lady didn't want to check, but Xianglin felt it was necessary to check. For no other reason than to criticize that little girl for looking like a lady. Since the death of the master, the young lady has inherited the Bai family's inheritance. 10 years ago, the uncle also passed away. The uncle has a son and a daughter, and he has been trying to take advantage of the young lady's property. Rather than taking advantage of those two people who were working against each other, it would be better to find the young lady's flesh and blood. Xianglin is a very traditional servant who values the inheritance of bloodline. Hey, the young lady is also a poor person. Even if she remarries, her uncle will look like He Jinming. This can only show that the young lady still has her ex-uncle He Jinming in her heart. Xianglin knew the woman who was talking to He Tian. She was the new maid in the family and was good at cooking. In this case, let's investigate from here. Panlin did not directly ask Mrs. Brown about He Tian's situation. Instead, she signaled a confidant maid in the family to get along well with Mrs. Brown and inquire about the news. When Mrs. Brown came to her new place of work, she was in the early stages of needing recognition and acceptance from others. She was very happy with the maid's show of kindness. After getting along for a while, everyone will also talk about some things at home. Finally, I learned something about He Tian. When she learned that He Tian's surname was He, Xianglin's heart skipped a beat. She had a hunch in her heart that this little girl with the surname He who looked exactly like the young lady must be related to the young lady. Xianglin found someone to continue the investigation. They were all trustworthy people who had stayed in the Bai family. When Mrs. Brown had a rest, she bought materials, used her expertise, and cooked a lot of delicious food. She invited He Tian and Shi Jinmin to come over and have dinner. Anna also invited Mrs. Brown and her two children to visit her home during the break. I have to say that Mrs. Brown is a very polite and kind person. When I came, I brought some snacks I made as gifts. Jimmy and Amy, though plainly dressed, were very clean and tidy. What is very rare is that he and Anna hit it off immediately and they have many topics to talk about. From cooking to flower arrangements, etc., we got along several times and became good friends. Mrs. Brown never regarded herself as a benefactor, she just treated her normally. On the contrary, it is precisely because of this that they have won the gratitude and favor of Anna and Qi Shuliang. If there is something that Mrs. Brown cannot handle, they will never stand idly by. The Sweetness of the Seventies. Author, Qi Xing Cao. Chapter 384. 382. Pandan moved quickly and found out that He Tian came to country M in spring. Those who live in Singapore, pass through Port H, and then come to country M are not from the mainland. Then He Jinming was unwilling to leave Nanshi even to the death. He even had a cold war with the lady and was unwilling to give in. How could he go to Singapore? Hey, probably not. After Xianglin had rested her mind for a few days, she spent several nights dreaming about the young lady's son and granddaughter. No, we have to continue checking. So we sent people to continue the investigation, stepped up the intensity, and sent out more people. This difference didn't matter. Qi Shuliang's previous cooperation with Huo Yingjun was found out. Because the Bai family is also a well-known H person in the local area, they naturally know what happened to Qi Shuliang before. Huo Yingjun is also well known in the prestigious H circle. Everyone knows that he is the special commissioner sent by H country to contact the local Chinese. He Tian and Qi Shu's mother were all brought here by Huo Yingjun. It can be seen that they came from the mainland. As for why a fake ID was created, considering the time, it was before the establishment of diplomatic relations between the two countries. It was probably to cover up others' eyes. After receiving the news, Xianglin was very excited, so she went to find the lady. Bai Qianjiao was arranging flowers. When she saw Xianglin coming over, she smiled and said, "Xianglin, what do you think?" "Very good," Xianglin said, "it's just that I have something important, so you'd better take a look first." It was rare for Bai Qianjiao to see Xianglin so serious. She picked up the envelope on the table and looked at it carefully. She was shocked. "Did that little girl really come from the mainland this year?" Bai Qianjiao asked in surprise. What is her real surname?" "Yes," Xianglin said, "Miss, it's a bit abrupt to ask that Huo Yingjun directly. Why don't you go visit Mr. Qi and ask him in person?" "This." Bai Qianjiao hesitated a little. She hoped that the little girl was her granddaughter, but she was also a little scared. Afraid that the little girl wouldn't recognize her. Afraid of hearing anything about that person. Gu Jing's originally calm heart became excited and heavy because of this thin piece of paper. "Miss, if you feel that it is a bit abrupt to visit Mr. Qi, you can invite Mr. Qi to discuss some business matters," Xianglin asked. "Since you are sincere, I believe Mr. Qi will not fail to tell you." "I'll think about it again." Bai Qianjiao did not agree directly. Just because she loved deeply at the beginning, she still can't let go after so many years. "Miss, you also know that those two people are ready to take over the property of our Bai family," Xianglin said. "You don't know what they are doing to you. You may find the young master now, you can find the young lady. No, I know why you are still hesitating." After Xianglin finished speaking, she stood up and left. She is worried about the young lady. The young lady who is usually resolute and decisive becomes indecisive when encountering emotional problems. "Hey, let's not talk about it anymore. Let's wait until the young lady thinks about it." Besides, Tian didn't know that someone was investigating her over there. She opened her notebook and recorded what she had to do after coming to country M. Most of the above things have been done. Autumn is coming soon, and she has to do this. Go to Columbia University, where my grandfather once studied. She wants to make a bookmark with the maple leaves from the school's beginning of autumn day. As for why it was this day, Tian remembered that her grandfather always had a bookmark in his book. When she was a child, she asked, this was a bookmark given to her on the day of beginning of autumn. Qi Zhengan dressed up and took Tian and Qi Zhenmin to Columbia University. After Qi Shuliang donated $10 million, Qi Zhengan, who missed the exam, easily received a notice from Columbia University. Of course, this is not only because of Qi Shuliang's $10 million, but also because Qi Zhengan's grades in school are all excellent. At the same time, the school learned that Qi Zhengan failed to pass the exam because of family matters. The school arranged the exam through special channels, and Qi Zhengan went to college. At that time, Tian complained in her heart that capitalist countries are rich, and you can go to university if you have money. Later, Anna gave Tian some information about the situation of universities here in the United States. It was easy to get in but not easy to get out. If you couldn't pass the examination, even if you got in, you might not be able to get out. Some people go to college for several years before getting their degree certificate. Walking around the campus of Columbia University, some of the students inside are in a hurry, some are leisurely. The tall buildings and beautiful environment make this school more full of heritage and vitality. Tian picked up a red maple leaf, which should be the same type as the one in Grandpa's book. "Sister Tian, why are you picking up the leaves on the ground?" Qi Zhenmin asked. "These leaves are very ordinary and have no other meaning." Tian carefully placed some beautiful leaves he picked up in the book. "I want to make a bookmark," Tian said. "I want to give it to my friends. They will definitely like it very much. In fact, Only Chi Xiaoyan, Niu Lily, and Chi Daniu probably couldn't understand the meaning of the leaves. Bookmarks, Chi Jinmin smiled, Sister Tian Tian, I know how to make bookmarks. I will help you make them when you get back. Okay, he Tian Tian agreed. The leaves are easy to break, so you have to find a good-looking cardboard base, and then seal it with plastic film. Qi Zhengan smiled and asked softly, you were very serious when selecting leaves? There must be a reason, right? Well, of course, he Tian Tian nodded, my grandfather has a maple leaf bookmark. He said it was a gift from my grandmother. It's so romantic, Qi Zhenmin exclaimed, I also want to make a bookmark. If I have someone I like in the future, I can give it to him as a gift. Romantic? Maybe. Anyway, he Tian Tian knew that her grandmother had left her grandfather. However, he Tian Tian also knows that the maintenance of a relationship depends on more than one person. Her grandmother may not be completely blamed for her departure. In fact, he Tian Tian wanted to say that her grandfather had a very strange temper, and it was probably because her grandmother couldn't bear it that she left. Ahem, Qi Zhengan coughed twice to remind his sister. Of course, I have to give it to my handsome brother first, Qi Jinmin said, don't worry, brother, I won't fall in love prematurely. It's good to know. Qi Zhengan touched Qi Jinmin's little head, and his sister's answer pleased him. After picking up a lot of leaves, Qi Zhengan took He Tian Tian and Qi Jinmin to visit other places. After they left, the two old ladies who were carrying them not far away turned around. Bai Qianjiao had tears streaming down her face, while Xianglin beside her felt sour and lamented. Miss, that little girl is definitely your granddaughter, Xianglin said with certainty. The little lady is so beautiful, so cute, and has a good temper. Anyway, she is better than her own lady. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Sweetness of the 70s. Author, Chi Sing Cao. Chapter 385. 383. Bai Qianjiao nodded and was speechless for a long time. That's her granddaughter. He Jinming is the only person in the world who is so stubborn that he will always treasure a useless leaf instead of a life of fine clothes and fine food, a happy life. Miss, shall we catch up? Xianglin asked. No need to ask now, she was sure that this was the lady's granddaughter. The last name is He. My grandfather went to college here. Here I receive leaves picked up from the ground by my sweetheart as treasures. Chasing, Bai Qianjiao smiled bitterly, how to chase? Are you going to catch up and say that I am your grandmother? Please call me grandma. She has no obligation to support her son, so how much affection does her granddaughter have for her? Then it will always be like this, Xianglin said, the young master and the young lady are your descendants. We don't care about the things of the Xin family. You have raised the two children of the Xin family, so you can be considered worthy of the Xin family. Uncle. Now that we are old, how long can we live? If we waste this time, will we really not know each other for the rest of our lives? I don't know, let me calm down first. Bai Qianjiao hesitated, she still wanted to think about it. After saying that, Bai Qianjiao left the maple forest. Xianglin looked at He Tianation's back walking towards the west, and then at the young lady walking towards the east. She stamped her feet anxiously and had no choice but to follow the young lady. Maybe we should show it to the young lady. The young lady has been kidnapped in the United States. Let the young lady worry. Maybe it can force the young lady to make a decision earlier. Bai Qianjiao and Xianglin sat in the car, speechless all the way. Bai Qianjiao was immersed in her own thoughts and couldn't help herself. Xianglin knew her young lady's shortcomings, but she had to figure it out on her own before she could recognize such things. If the young lady moves back on her own, even if she pushes forward from behind, she won't be able to move up. When they arrived at home, Bai Qianjiao's stepson and stepdaughter came back together. The stepson Xin Wei is 40 years old and the stepdaughter Xin Anan is 38 years old. The two of them have their own families. Xin Wei has a son and a daughter, and his stepdaughter only has a son. Bai Qianjiao calmed down her emotions, smiled slightly and asked, "It's such a coincidence, why are you two here together?" "Haha, today is my mother's birthday. Of course we have to come over to celebrate mommy's birthday." Xianan stepped forward and took her stepmother's arm affectionately. Bai Qianjiao was stunned for a moment, and then she remembered that today was her birthday. "You guys are interested?" Bai Qianjiao smiled, "Let the kitchen prepare some more good dishes for noon today, and you can eat here too." Xin Wei stepped forward and presented a beautiful wooden box and said, "Mother, this is a gift for you. I wish you a happy birthday." Bai Qianjiao smiled, opened it, and found a fine jade pendant inside. Judging from the quality, it looked like an old item, and said, "It's a waste of money." "As long as mommy is happy," Xin Wei smiled, happy that his stepmother could like it. When Xin Anan saw such a good gift, she felt envious. The eldest brother was really willing to give up to his stepmother, but he was very stingy towards his younger sister. "Oh, brother gave me such a good gift, but the limited edition bag I gave doesn't seem to be that good," Xianan complained. "This piece of jade pendant from brother can buy a lot of bags." At this time, the sound of children talking and laughing came from outside. "It's Xianan, Xin Wei's children are coming. Xianan's husband is Jeffrey Gladstone, son Denton. Gladstone is 13 years old. Xin Wei's wife is Chinese, the eldest daughter of the Li family, Li Yushan, and has a son and a daughter. The son Xin Ziban is 18 years old this year, and the daughter Xin Ziang is 16 years old." Seeing Bai Qianjiao back, they all stepped forward to wish Bai Qianjiao a happy birthday and gave them gifts they had prepared in advance. The originally deserted home suddenly became lively and lively. Bai Qianjiao is not a mean person and treats her stepson and stepdaughter well. Over the years, even after her husband passed away, she could still maintain some contact with her stepson and stepdaughter. If she had not heard the conversation between her stepson and stepdaughter, she might have thought that these two people really regarded her as her mother. On Christmas 3 years ago, the home was decorated very warmly inside and out, just waiting for them to come back and spend Christmas together. As people get older, they will want to make their homes more lively. However, she and Xianglan waited all night, but none of these people came. The next day, Xin Wei and Xianan came back and said that their biological mother was not feeling well and they went to visit. If the biological mother is not feeling well, there is nothing wrong with seeing her as a child. The stepson and stepdaughter are very smart, but their mother Ye Wen can't keep her temper. There was a financial crisis in the Xin family that year and they were on the verge of bankruptcy. Ye Wen did not want to bear huge debts and took away the family's funds and valuables. Regardless of her husband, sons, and daughters, she decided to divorce Xin Jianyi. However, although the Xin family was severely damaged, it was not completely hopeless. With Xin Jianyi's efforts and the help of his friends, he gradually got out of the trough. It was also because of the previous heavy losses that Xin Jianyi realized the mistakes of the Xin family. He abandoned some old industries and switched to new industries, earning a huge amount of money. Profit. Seeing this, Ye Wen cried and shouted to come back. Even if she used the reason that the child needs a mother, Xin Jianyi did not agree and chose to pursue Bai Qianjiao. At that time, her relationship with He Jinming broke up and her life was under pressure. At the same time, her old father was in poor health. She returned to Country M to take care of her father and manage the business in Country M. After her father's side was stabilized, her whereabouts were restricted by her father and her documents were detained. She could no longer come to Country H to visit her children. Coupled with the fact that she did not receive a letter from He Jinming, and the endless quarrels before, she found that she was tired of that kind of life, and her love for He Jinming faded away, so she stayed in country M. 3 years later, she married Xin Jianyi. But when she dreams back at midnight, she always thinks of her young son. By the time she gathered herself together and prepared to take her son over, there was no contact between the two parties, and she could no longer see her son. I feel very guilty for my son. However, there is no point in regretting. She originally thought that her feelings for He Jinming were gone, but when she heard He Tian talking about the maple leaf bookmark, her heart actually ached. When she was about to marry Xin Jianyi, Xianglin once persuaded her, saying that she still liked He Jinming, but at that time, when she thought about her life in China, she was not accustomed to the climate, all kinds of inconveniences, and the endless quarrels with He Jinming. And He Jinming's mother and cousin were among them, which made her unwilling to mention the past, so she chose to escape and close her heart. When Xin Jianyi was dying, he once held her hand and asked, "Xiao, have you ever liked me?" Bai Qianjiao's mind was actually empty at the time. Later, the high-spirited He Jinming in the university appeared, and then the steady and shrewd Xin Jianyi. Only then did she realize that she had loved Xin Jianyi, but not as deeply as she loved He Jinming. "Loved me," Bai Qianjiao replied. She did love Xin Jianyi. Since he wanted to know, she would tell him. The Sweetness of the 70s. Author, Chi Xing Cao. Chapter 386. 384. When Xin Jianyi died, the children had grown up. Half of the inheritance left by Xin Jianyi was given to Bai Qianjiao, and the other half was divided between his two children. Bai Qianjiao didn't want anything except the house she lived with Xin Jianyi before, and wanted to give it to her two stepsons and stepdaughter. Because she has no children, if she dies in the future, all these things will belong to them, even her property. If she can find her biological son, she will give 70% to her biological son and 30% to her stepson and stepdaughter. But on the first Christmas after their father died, they all disappeared. To meet and care for my mother who is not feeling well. But what is the real situation? Their mother was not sick at all. Although Ye Wen called to trick them into going, the stepson and stepdaughter did not tell her the truth. Even if Bai Qianjiao knew the truth at that time, she thought that her stepson and stepdaughter were trying to prevent her from thinking too much, so she didn't care. However, during a gathering with friends, Bai Qianjiao saw Ye Wen. When Ye Wen saw Bai Qianjiao, he came over with a smile and said, "Sister, since we have seen her, let's go and talk." "I'm sorry, Ms. Ye, my parents only have one daughter," Bai Qianjiao said, implicitly reminding Ye Wen not to get too close. But Ye Wen didn't seem to hear it, and said with a smile, "I am Lao Xian's first wife, and you were his second marriage. In ancient times, you were my concubine and lover, so of course you have to call me eldest sister." "Ha." Bai Qianjiao didn't care and said with a smile, "Together with the lover, they took the husband's money and ran away. In ancient times, both men and women had to be dipped in a pig cage." You. Ye Wen was angry. He didn't expect Bai Qianjiao to be so sharp-tongued, but then he thought that Bai Qianjiao had worked hard to raise her children and would get her property in the future, and he suddenly lost his anger. "Excuse me." When Bai Qianjiao saw an acquaintance coming, she walked over and ignored Ye Wen. However, while Bai Qianjiao was chatting with her friends, Xianglin went to the bathroom, and when passing by a room, she heard the conversation inside. Ye Wen was talking to his sons Xin Wei and Xin Anan. "You have also seen that your stepmother doesn't take me seriously at all," Ye Wen said while crying. Xin Wei winked at Xin Anan and asked his sister to comfort his mother. After all, his stepmother was here too. It would be bad if her stepmother heard what she said. "Mommy, don't be so sad. No matter what, you still have me and my brother to respect you, Xinnan said, now half of my father's property is in the hands of my stepmother. If we don't be filial to her, I won't get that money and property either. That woman is a chicken that doesn't lay eggs. She has no children, and she can't take so much property underground. Ye Wen said contemptuously, she is not young anymore. She might die one day. By then, she won't be both of you. Seeing that what his mother said was becoming increasingly unreliable, Xin Wei stepped forward to persuade him and said, Mom, according to the law, stepmother's property can be left to her stepsons and stepdaughters, but it can also be donated entirely. Now stepmother is very good to us. Don't mess with her. Yes, Mommy, if we donate it, we will lose a lot of money. The Xin family's property is small. Hey, your father is also a fool, why should you give half of your property to an outsider? Ye Wen scolded, okay, when I see your good stepmother in the future, I will stay far away and never be in front of her. Let's talk, that's all. Thank you, Mommy. Xinnan said, when we get the property, I will buy you any bags or jewelry you want. Okay, I'm going out first, you can go out later. Xin Wei said softly, he had been inside for a long time. Xianglin hid, tears streaming down her face, and she felt angry and anxious. The young lady's thoughts really fed two dogs. Did these two ungrateful things forget that it was the lady who took care of them when they were sick? When the parent-teacher conference was held, the young lady also went there. Is the lady taking care of daily life? Although there are servants in life, the mistress is interested and the mistress is indifferent, which are two completely different states. Where was their mother at that time? I didn't know I was fooling around with that wild man. So besides giving birth to them, what did Ye Wen do? Thinking of this, Xianglin became even more angry. Either he was born by himself or he was not raised well. This is different from an adopted orphan. Forget it, after she goes back, she must tell the lady so that she can recognize the true colors of Xin Wei and Xinnan. At the same time, Xianglin also thought of the young master who stayed in the country. After the party, Bai Qianjiao encountered a car accident on the road again. Although it was only a scratch, in Xianglin's mind, this might be the brother and sister who wanted to kill the lady. When there were only two of them, Xianglin told Bai Qianjiao everything she heard. Bai Qianjiao was silent for a long time. Miss, maybe your accident is not an accident, Xianglin reminded, we should think about our options. Bai Qianjiao felt sad, but she also knew that some things couldn't be forced. Money and silk destroy people's hearts. Xianglin, I understand. I will send someone to investigate. Bai Qianjiao nodded, and then sent someone to investigate the condition of his stepson and stepdaughter, as well as the car accident. The car accident was accidental and was not deliberately arranged. However, the information showed that the actions of the stepson and stepdaughter disappointed Bai Qianjiao. She could only receive gifts from Xin Wei and Xinnan on her birthday and Christmas, and they were the kind of things that seemed to take a lot of effort, but had little value, and those so-called efforts were nothing more. It was the servants around me who were more troublesome, not the brothers and sisters. Take a look at the things they gave Ye Wen, including brand-name bags, fashionable clothes, and many expensive jewelry. In the eyes of Bai Qianjiao, who is wealthy, these are nothing. What completely disappoints her is that her stepson and stepdaughter take their children to Ye Wen's place for dinner almost every week. But they probably wouldn't come to her once a month. Even the children don't like to come to her. She admitted that she was more serious, but she used to really love them. Since they have no intention, let's forget it. Bai Qianjiao is also a person who can take it and let it go. Xianglin, call Mr. Lawrence. Seeing that the lady had listened to her words, Xianglin nodded and said, yes, I'll make a call right now. The Sweetness of the 70s. Author, Chi Sing Cao. Chapter 387. 385. After Lawrence came over, Baekhyunjae immediately changed his will. The first one above is that in the event of Baekhyunjae's abnormal death, all the fixed assets, stocks, companies, and collections in Baekhyunjae's name will be donated. Unexpected deaths here include but are not limited to car accidents, poisoning, falls and other accidents. The first clause directly eliminated the stepson and stepdaughter's motive of murdering Baekhyunjae. Baekhyunjae did not die of natural causes, and her stepson and stepdaughter would not receive a penny. At the same time, the unsigned property transfer agreement was also recovered. After the notarization took effect, Xionglan was the only one around Baekhyunjae. Xin and Xin could not get the property promised by their stepmother for a long time, so they asked around the corner. "Mom, you are busy with the company and working very hard. Why don't you let us help you?" Xin said affectionately, sitting next to her stepmother. Baekhyunjae smiled and said, "You are still young and need experience." Hearing this, Xin and Xin were unhappy, but they didn't show it on their faces. They smiled and said, "But seeing you working so hard, we feel sorry for you." "Haha, you must be very busy too," Baekhyunjae said softly, without continuing. However, Xin and Xin felt a little guilty after hearing this. "Yes, if I wasn't busy, why would I only come here once every month or two?" They went to the manor their father left them near the city every weekend, where their mother was. The children also like the liveliness there, but don't like it being deserted. "Then we will stay with you more from now on," Xin said with a smile, unable to continue talking about the transfer of property. In the blink of an eye, it was Christmas the next year. "We had promised to come, but they still didn't come. Last year, Baekhyunjae was very sad, but after thinking about it, she was no longer sad." The next day, Baekhyunjae took Xionglan directly for vacation. When Xin and Xin came with their families, the building was already empty. That's when they realized something was wrong. When Baekhyunjae and Xionglan came back from vacation, they were in a good mood. Xin explained why they didn't come that day because her children particularly liked the pony in the manor and were clamoring to go. Xin also put the responsibility on the child and asked the child to admit his mistake to Baekhyunjae. Baekhyunjae just smiled and said, "You are close to your biological mother. It is understandable that the children like to kiss their grandmother. I have no objection. It's just that the more Baekhyunjae behaves like this, the more unsure Xin and Xin feel." After they returned home, Ye Wen was so angry that she cursed and wished Baekhyunjae would die. Then she did another stupid thing. He actually wanted to cause a car accident. At this time, Ye Wen didn't know that Baekhyunjae had changed his will. However, he was caught on the spot by the well-prepared Baekhyunjae faction, but the driver would rather go to jail than reveal the mastermind. It doesn't matter who the mastermind is, since she wasn't harmed anyway, it's not hard to guess who the mastermind is. Baekhyunjae called Mr. Lawrence and the notary and read out the changed will on the spot. Xin and Xin were dumbfounded. "Mother, do you doubt that we will take action?" Xin said hurriedly, "Mother, we will not do such a thing for money. After all, you raised us. Mother, we respect you very much and will be filial to you," Xin said in a deep voice, having already scolded his mother 1,000 times in his heart. "Incompetent bungalow." Baekhyunjae smiled and said, "I believe you are good children, but I don't believe your mother. You know very well what kind of person Ye Wen is, and so do I. Isn't she doing this for money?" "Mother, it's not like this." Xin also wanted to explain, "What we wanted to come that day was just." "Okay, the matter is over, so be it. I'm a little tired," Baekhyunjae said with a smile. At this time Xionglan came over to see off the guests. Xin had no choice but to take Xin and leave. After going out, Xin complained in his heart and said, I shouldn't have gone to mommy's place that day, and now it's like this. It's like a chicken flying egg. Xin Wei scratched his head and said, you also know that if you don't go there, mommy will seek death and survival. After all, that is our biological mother. Yes, mommy was quite pitiful back then, Xin said with emotion, this time mommy did such a thing, how could someone as smart as my stepmother not see it? She must have been disappointed with us last year. I'm probably completely disappointed this year. Hey, we can't get even the Xin family's property. Yes, Xin was worried, blaming her mother in her heart. Bai Qianjiao, who was standing upstairs, felt sad looking at the backs of her stepdaughter and stepson. Instead of raising your own children, you raise other people's children with all your heart, but you end up with this. This is her punishment for abandoning her son. You deserve this pain. Her willfulness hurt her biological son, and she can't see him now. She wanted to find her son, but could a woman like her get his forgiveness? She was scared and undecided. After Bai Qianjiao was in conflict, she dared not send anyone to find him. But she knew that Pandan would look for it. Time passed very quickly. Bai Qianjiao looked at herself in the mirror. There were more white hairs on her head and more wrinkles on her face. Her clear eyes began to become no longer clear and lost their youthful look. Beauty. Miss, dinner is ready. Xianglan came up and looked at the lost lady. While both of us are still in good health, we can't wait any longer, Xianglan said, let's go find the young lady tomorrow. Bai Qianjiao burst into tears and said bitterly, okay. Even if she dies, she will leave all the Bai family wealth in her life to her descendants. Xianglan and Bai Qianjiao supported each other and cried silently. After a while, Xianglan wiped away her tears and said, Miss, go down, they are all waiting for you to eat below. Okay, let's go down now. Bai Qianjiao put on makeup and returned to her previous graceful appearance, except that her eyes were a little red and swollen from crying. Everyone sings happy birthday together. Bai Qianjiao smiled, cut the cake, and distributed the cake to everyone. After a delicious lunch, Xin Wei and Xin Anan said goodbye and left, going to Xin Wei's house. Husband, my mother-in-law seemed to be crying at noon today. Could it be that she was moved by us? Li Yushin asked. In her heart, this stepmother-in-law is a very strong woman. She always smiles in front of others and has never been seen crying. The stepmother-in-law was moved and it was possible to amend the will. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Sweetness of the 70s. Author, Chi Sing Cao. Chapter 388. 386. Xin Wei and Xin Anan looked at each other. Brother, do you think so? Xin Anan asked uncertainly. She hoped so more than her sister-in-law. This would prove that the stepmother had forgiven them, and they could get a lot of money. With money, the family company could get out of trouble. Xin Wei pondered for a moment and said, I don't think so. Why do you say that? Li Yushin asked. Compared with the brothers and sisters of the Xin family, she didn't know her stepmother. Because even when my father died, my stepmother was only sad for a while, and didn't cry, at least not in front of people. Xin Wei said, I think something must have happened to make my stepmother lose her composure. Brother, what could it be? Xin Anan said, all the people in the Bai family are dead. Let's talk about it after the investigation. Xin Wei said, by the way, this is the time, don't let mommy go to the stepmother. Yeah, why Wen has been acting up again because her children are busy with work and don't care about her. With such a mother, the two siblings were a little angry, but they had her blood flowing in their bodies and could not ignore her. As children, they would give in to their mother and meet her demands, but the stepmother would not. Hey, mommy wants the villa where stepmother lives, and she said that it was bought by father for her, and she has to live in it. Xianan was very troubled. She also said that if we don't help her, she will take legal means to get her things back. The mansion where stepmother lives was indeed bought when father and mommy got married, but when they divorced, their respective properties had been divided, and father took the villa and company, and gave everything else to mommy. Nonsense, Xian said angrily, doesn't she understand the law? Xian shrugged, indicating that he didn't understand. Tell her not to leave the manor if she has nothing to do, Xian said. He was getting more and more disappointed with his biological mother. When her husband and sister-in-law talked about her mother-in-law, Li Yushin couldn't interrupt. Compared with her stepmother-in-law, Li Yushin hated her biological mother-in-law even more. She was a woman who was greedy and vain and only knew how to enjoy herself. Shameless, he even asked for the mansion left by his father-in-law, and didn't think about what kind of scandal he had done in the past. Xian sent someone to investigate and make plans. After the two families of his stepson and stepdaughter left, Bai Qianjiao finally made up her mind that no matter what, she would try her best to make up for her son and granddaughter. Even if they didn't forgive her, she would do her best to treat them well. Miss, the day after tomorrow they are going to the Jixianglu in Chinatown to listen to opera, and we will go to Xianglan suggested. After getting familiar with each other, we can recognize each other. Yes, Bai Qianjiao nodded, but you have to be careful. Ye Wen is a mad dog, and a greedy mad dog. If they know Tianatian's identity, they will definitely take action. I don't want He Tian to suffer an accident before my granddaughter recognizes him. Miss, I know everything, Xianglan said. We are not vegetarians in the Bai family. If they dare to do it, they will regret it. That's good, can't make mistakes, Bai Qianjiao nodded. She didn't want to make a big move before, just wanted to spend her old age in peace, but now she can't do that. If a tiger doesn't show its might, then I, Bai Qianjiao, am a sick cat. On Sunday, Grandma Chi-san and her family dressed up and prepared to go to Jixianglu to listen to opera. Because of Grandma Chi-san, the Chi family gradually fell in love with listening to opera. Now they can vaguely understand it. As soon as they got off the car, the person in front turned around. Bai Qianjiao was slightly startled when she saw He Tian holding an old lady who was about the same age as her. Mr. Chi, are you here to listen to opera too? Bai Qianjiao asked. This is. Qi Shuliang saw that it was Bai Qianjiao, a famous strong woman in the Chinese community, and said, Ms. Bai. I'm very happy to see you here. This is my mother. Mother, this is the respected elder Ms. Bai. Grandma Chi-san rarely met an old lady who spoke Chinese, and she was happy in her heart. Ms. Bai, hello. Hello, old lady Chi, Bai Qianjiao said. I was born in 1908, how about you? Haha, I was born in 1905, 3 years older than my sister. Seeing Bai Qianjiao reveal her birth year, Grandma Chi-san wanted to discuss seniority with her. Then let's call each other sisters, Bai Qianjiao said. Call me Ms. Bai, it's too strange for old lady Chi. That's good, Grandma Chi-san agreed, thinking that this little Bai looked familiar, but she just couldn't remember who she looked like for a while. Bai Qianjiao helped Grandma Chi-san walk forward, leaving the people behind looking at each other in bewilderment. Qi Shuliang was also very curious. This Ms. Bai always kept people at a distance and was not close to others. Anna and Qi Shuliang met Bai Qianjiao when they attended a Chinese gathering, but they didn't feel familiar with her. But He Tian stood there in a daze. She saw the woman in the photo. Although this woman was much older than the woman in the photo, the difference was not much. Sister Tian, why don't you leave? Qi Zhenmin reached out to pull He Tian, turned around and saw He Tian, and suddenly exclaimed, Dad, Mom, that grandma looks like Sister Tian. Qi Zhengan frowned, and obviously he also found it. Do you know her? Qi Zhengan asked, and He Tian was a little out of control. He Tian was stunned. Although she had thought about going to see her grandmother before coming to country M, so many things happened intermittently that she never had the chance to talk about it. Besides, life here was very happy, and she almost forgot about it. However, just when she forgot about it, that person appeared. No. We know. He Tian stammered, and she wasn't sure if she knew him. You really don't know him, Qi Shuliang also reacted. Yes, he finally understood why he always felt familiar when he saw He Tian. But no matter what, Qi Shuliang would not associate He Tian with Bai Qianjiao. He Tian smiled bitterly and said, I think she looks like my grandmother. Grandma, Qi Shuliang was stunned, what's going on? He Tian didn't want to hide it from Qi Shuliang. Now that she had met someone who looked similar to her, they were connected to each other secretly. He Tian didn't want to escape. If it was really her grandmother, she just wanted to tell her that her father didn't hate her and hoped she would be well. Just grandpa. Compared with being able to live to understand each other, the regret of being separated forever can never be made up for. Qi Shuliang's family was stunned after hearing this. Qi Zhenmin always thought that the affairs of their family could be made into a family ethics drama spanning 30 years and 50 episodes between two countries, and that the affairs of sister Tianation's family could be made into a love drama between two countries and spanning 40 years and 80 episodes. I don't know yet, He Tian said, Uncle Qi, please help me check it out. If I can find it out, I won't have any regrets when I come to country M this time. Don't worry, I will help you investigate, Qi Shuliang said. Something that can be done with a little effort can not only help He Tian, but also Ms. Bai. After all, Ms. Bai has no children of her own, so it would be a great thing if she could recognize her biological son. The Sweetness of the 70s. Author, Qi Xing Cao. Chapter 389. 387. Qi Shuliang also heard some things about Ms. Bai. Her stepson and stepdaughter are unreliable. Go up first, Qi Shuliang said, I will find out this matter clearly for you. He Tianation's footsteps are heavy, and she has a feeling similar to the timidity of being close to home. The person deep in your heart suddenly appears in front of you, and you are at a loss what to do. You guys go up first, He Tian said. Her heart was a little confused, and the look of loss and longing on her father's face when he talked about her grandmother kept appearing in her mind. She thought that like her father, she would not blame her grandmother, but when she saw someone who might be her grandmother today, He Tian felt resentment in her heart. Because my grandmother left, my grandfather was lonely and sad all his life. Especially because of the departure of his grandmother, his father had no mother since he was a child and grew up without maternal love. Seeing this, Qi Shuliang nodded and said, Okay, Zhengan, you sit down below with Tian, and we'll go up first. Yes, Dad, Qi Zhengan agreed and accompanied He Tian below. He Tian felt that there were too many people here, so she went for a walk on the street. Qi Zhengan and his bodyguards were not far behind He Tian, not knowing how to comfort He Tian. He Tian looked around unconsciously and saw a Chinese-style shop. There was a handmade rattle inside, which was exactly the same as the old rattle at home. That rattle is my father's treasure, and my grandmother bought it for my mother. To this day, that rattle is still my father's treasure. If it's broken, fix it. Dad once said that when he thinks of his grandmother, he will take it out and look at it. He Tian bought a rattle, held it in her hand, and shook it gently. Dong dong dong. The nice drum beat and the familiar voice seemed to hit He Tianation's heart. Amidst the gentle drum beats, He Tian gathered her thoughts and she could go up and face that person. If not, she won't be disappointed. If so, she wouldn't complain. Let's go listen to the show, He Tian said to Qi Zhengan beside him, sweeping away the previous disappointment. Seeing that He Tian seemed to be more relaxed, Qi Zhengan also showed a sunny smile and said, okay. Bai Qianjiao felt disappointed when she saw Qi Shuliang came up with his wife and daughter, but did not see her granddaughter He Tian. It was rare to see Bai Qianjiao, who had always been indifferent, look disappointed, and Qi Shuliang confirmed what He Tian said before. Sister Qi, I also heard about what happened between your mother and son. I'm really happy for you, Bai Qianjiao said enviously. She also wanted to reunite with her son. Grandma Qi-san smiled and said, it's all God's mercy. That's why my sister is lucky, Bai Qianjiao said. When she saw her granddaughter, she wanted to recognize He Tian immediately. I have a son in the mainland, whom I haven't seen for many years. Huh, Grandma Qi-san was stunned, wondering if it was too soon for them to say this after they had just met each other for the first time. But now that Bai Qianjiao has said it, Grandma Qi-san, as a fallen person in Tianya, has no choice but to continue asking. Sister, do you also have a son in China? Grandma Qi-san asked. Now that we have established diplomatic relations, you can ask someone to help you look for it in China, and maybe you can still find him. No matter what the reason is, I know I can't see him. Son, that heartbreaking pain. Heartbreaking pain. Yes, although she is strong and willful, she has also experienced this heartbreaking pain. By chance, I found out, my son He Jingyu. Bai Qianjiao choked up, and when she said the name, she was already sobbing. She and He Jinming spent a long time getting this name. Ah, Grandma Qi-san was even more surprised. This is such a coincidence. Are you really Jingyu's mother? Bai Qianjiao nodded and said, yes, my ex-husband is He Jinming. I went to check after Xianglin next to me saw that He Tian looked like me. Although I had sent people to the country to check before, but now still no news. I know that Tianatian's father's name is He Jingyu, and his ancestral home is Nan City, Jiangsu Province. I don't know the name of my grandfather, Grandma Qi-san replied. She looked at Bai Qianjiao carefully and finally understood why she felt that Bai Qianjiao looked familiar to Tian. The girl looks a lot like this lady. I went to Columbia University on my birthday, and I happened to meet a little girl who looked very similar to me and said that her grandfather went to college here. I was even more sure, Bai Qianjiao said softly, I really didn't expect that. We didn't expect it, Grandma Qi-san said. He Jingyu is my adopted son and He Tian is my god-granddaughter. They are both good children. Although I don't know why you left in the first place. Maybe you have some reasons, but that's all in the past. Please don't hurt them, okay? Ex-husband. This word is very sensitive, and it means that the woman in front of me has remarried. After remarriage, there will be more children. How to get along with the child from your ex-husband is a bit complicated. Grandma Qi-san's first reaction was that it was okay for mother and son to recognize each other, but would it bring trouble to He Jingyu's family after they recognized each other? Sister Qi, I know what you mean. After I remarried, I had no children, only stepson and stepdaughter. After my husband passed away and the property was distributed, we are now estranged. Bai Qianjiao smiled bitterly. I didn't go there for various reasons before. I wanted to look for my biological son, but when I tried to look for him again, the mainland was closed and I couldn't. It's never too late if you want to recognize your son, Grandma Qi-san said. This was a matter between He Jingyu and the woman in front of her. She couldn't comment further. After Qi Shuliang came up, Bai Qianjiao took a few glances, but didn't see He Tian and asked, where's Tian? She's down there, Qi Shuliang said. Something happened, so I'll be up in a minute. Bai Qianjiao was a little disappointed and wished she could meet He Tian now. Seeing that the lady was disappointed and unable to leave, Xianglin turned around and went downstairs. When Pandan found He Tian, she happened to see He Tian holding a small rattle in his hand. The little lady's expression gradually changed from the previous disappointment to relief. Miss He. Looking at a face similar to the lady, Xianglin wanted to get close to her very much. He Tian turned her head and saw Xianglin. Thinking of the people around Ms. Bai, she asked, "Hello." "Okay, okay." Xianglin was a little excited. "Everyone is watching a show, let's go over." "Yeah," he Tian agreed and followed Xianglin. When she arrived at the Jixiang building and the private room on the second floor, Bai Qianjiao looked at He Tian intently, feeling happy and guilty. She hesitated several times and didn't know where to start. He Tian could guess something from Bai Qianjiao's expression. This grandmother, who has never been masked before, must also know her identity. Have a happy New Year's Day holiday. In the new year, may you be healthy and prosperous, and continue to subscribe to my books. The Sweetness of the Seventies. Author, Chi Sing Cao. Chapter 390. 388. Grandma Chi San saw that both of them were silent, probably because she was embarrassed in front of so many people, so she suggested, "Sister, didn't you book a private room before? It might be better if you go over there and talk alone." After hearing this, Bai Qianjiao nodded, looked at He Tian carefully, and asked, "Is that okay? To cut through the mess quickly, this matter cannot be delayed forever." "Okay." He Tian nodded and agreed with Grandma Chi San's suggestion. Xianglin walked in front, helping Bai Qianjiao and He Tian open the door. Bai Qianjiao took the first step, and He Tian turned back to look at everyone. Grandma Chi San nodded and said, "Go, child, things will eventually be solved. No matter what, you still have ours." I said this just to tell He Tian that they were her backing. After hearing this, He Tian felt at ease. After entering the private room, the waiter served tea, and Xianglin closed the door outside, leaving space for the young lady to be alone with her. Bai Qianjiao looked at He Tian as if she couldn't get enough. He Tian looked a little embarrassed and didn't know how to describe her current mood. After a while, He Tian took a sip from the teacup and said, "The tea is almost cold, you should drink some too." "Okay, okay, I'll drink tea too," Bai Qianjiao said repeatedly. After drinking the tea, she looked at He Tian as if she had the courage. "I want to say sorry to you." He Tian was startled, then smiled bitterly and said, "Actually, my grandfather and father have never said anything bad about you. I think they love you more than they blame you. As for me, I am just a granddaughter and a parent. My grandfather raised me since I was a child. I'm very happy, so you didn't feel sorry for me. Instead, you gave birth to me, and I should be grateful to you." After hearing this, Bai Qianjiao could not help but choked up again and said, "I was willful back then, and I should bear most of the responsibility. It's all over." "It's too late to take responsibility," He Tian said. "There are objective or subjective reasons for what happened between you and your grandfather. It's up to you to be together or separate. The most pitiful one is Dad. He grew up without a mother, and his grandfather became a withdrawn and old-fashioned person. Yes, the person I am most sorry for is your father." Bai Qianjiao choked. Can I still make up for it? My father talked to me about you before. He was a little bit resentful when he was a child. But when he grew up and understood the truth, he knew that some things were beyond his control, so he stopped complaining. This time when I came to country M, he also allowed me to have the opportunity will come to you. But you must also know that I left this matter behind when I came to M country. You, say you miss him, that's enough. You have your own life in country M, and we don't want to disturb you." After hearing this, Bai Qianjiao felt sad and moved, and finally couldn't help crying loudly. He Tian took out a clean handkerchief embroidered with magnolia flowers from her bag, handed it over, and said, "Wipe your tears. In fact, you are alive and well. To Dad, you are all ready. This is the best news. Don't feel so guilty, it will hurt your body." Bai Qianjiao took the handkerchief, wiped her tears, smelled the fragrance on the handkerchief, and said, "Thank you. Hearing you say these words made me realize my mistakes more. At my age now, I won't live for a few more years. Yes, I want to recognize your father." He Tian was startled. What she said was true. As long as they knew that each other was fine, that would be fine. This is what my father and mother said before they came. But won't this disturb your current life? He Tian asked. She was worried that her grandmother would remarry, and she must have a son, grandson, and granddaughter here. If they recognize each other, it will inevitably arouse some people's resentment. Especially since the grandmother in front of me is still a rich wife, it will be even more complicated when money is involved. He Tian thinks their family is doing well now. As long as they survive these few years, they can return to Nanji and live a peaceful and fulfilling life. Even if you don't have a lot of money, you are not short of money to spend, and you can still live a very happy life. Tian, I am remarried, but I have no children. Your father is the only child in my life, so even if I recognize you, no one will make things difficult for you, Bai Qianjiao said. As for the stepdaughter and stepson, since after my husband passed away 10 years ago, we have separated the property and have nothing to do with it. Bai Qianjiao did not dare to say that her stepson and stepdaughter had always coveted her property. If the siblings are honest, Bai Qianjiao will return half of the Xian family property left by her husband to them. If they don't know how to appreciate it, then she will make them not get a dime and make them regret it greatly. Ah, He Tian was stunned. No wonder she wanted to recognize her father. Don't be afraid, I won't let you get her, Bai Qianjiao said, worried that He Tian would be afraid. The grandmother in front of me is a strong woman at first glance. He Tian could only nod and said, "Well, I'm not afraid." "Do you want to come to country M?" Bai Qianjiao asked. "Here, you can receive a good education and have a very good material life." When He Tian heard this, she shook her head repeatedly and said, "I can't make the decision. I want to go back and tell my father." "You can write a letter or send a telegram," Bai Qianjiao said, "that Huo Yingjun should be an official of country H. He was able to bring you and sister Qi here because Qi Shu has made a lot of contributions to the country. I also you have put in a lot of effort and you can ask for it. It's better not to do it. The domestic environment is very complicated. Because my grandfather once studied in country M, our family was often checked and questioned by some people in the past. Now our family is hiding in Kijia village and living quietly. If there is suddenly news that someone in country M is as a family, we don't know what will happen to our peaceful life." Bai Qianjiao felt very disappointed. She knew the situation in the country, but it seemed that she took it for granted. Maybe she should do something for her family. But there is also something happy about it. He Tian said that she is their family. "If it's not convenient for you to come, then I will go back with you." Bai Qianjiao wanted to see her son very much and couldn't wait any longer. Now that the political environment is relatively relaxed, it is not particularly difficult to go back. He Tian shook her head and said, "You can't be hasty, let me think about it." She wanted to ask Huo Yingjun what to do about this matter. If she came to country M, she wouldn't be able to see Huo Yingjia, which she couldn't accept. Besides, if she doesn't come to country M, her parents won't come either. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Sweetness of the Seventies. Author, Chi Sing Cao. Chapter 391. 389. It's just that my grandmother must have a lot of things going on here, and it's impossible to stay in the country. If the policy changes one day, their whole family will be in dire straits. Bai Qianjiao was a little disappointed, but she also knew that this could not be solved in a day or two. Tian, Can I invite you to my house, Bai Qianjiao asked, looking at her granddaughter who looked somewhat similar to herself. She couldn't wait to dress up He Tian with the jewelry at home. He Tian thought for a while, nodded and said, okay. Seeing that He Tian didn't call her grandmother, Bai Qianjiao was a little disappointed and asked cautiously, can you call me grandmother? He Tian was startled, nodded, and said awkwardly, grandmother. Because he was not familiar with it, He Tian stuttered a little and felt a little embarrassed. Hey, Bai Qianjiao nodded, good boy. Bai Qianjiao hugged He Tian and hugged him tightly, trying to use her hug to drive away the unfamiliarity and awkwardness between the two. He Tian's body was stiff and she was not used to other people's physical contact. Maybe it was because of the blood relationship in her body, or maybe it was because Bai Qianjiao's hug was too strong and warm, so He Tian also hugged Bai Qianjiao with her backhand. After a while, Xianglin came in with snacks and tea. She saw the young lady and the young lady hugging each other and said, Miss, you are too excited today. Drink some soothing tea. Little lady, you drink some too. Thank you, He Tian said politely. This was Grandma's confidant, and he seemed to be a powerful person at first glance. Bai Qianjiao introduced, Tian, this is the maid Xianglin who has served me since childhood. We are as close as sisters, so you can call her Grandma Lan. Grandma Lan, He Tian said, very politely. When Xianglin heard this, she beamed with joy, and quickly took off a pair of jasper bracelets from her wrists, saying, although this thing was given to me by your grandmother, it is also very valuable. If you call me Grandma Lan, I won't give you a meeting gift, so I'll kill you quickly. Although He Tian didn't understand jade, she also knew that the jasper table was very valuable, so she quickly declined, Grandma Lan, you're too polite. Since it was given to you by your grandmother, keep it well. Bai Qianjiao beside her laughed and said, hey, I was so excited that I shed tears just now and forgot about the meeting gift. After saying that, he took off a pair of Hishan jade bracelets from his wrists. Tian, take it with you. Bai Qianjiao handed it over. The little girl is really young, so she needs to dress up well. Looking at the two pairs of bracelets in front of her, He Tian couldn't laugh or cry. She didn't know whether to accept them or not. At this moment, Grandma Chi-san knocked on the door and came in. She said with a smile, Tian, the gift given by the elders at this time is a gift given by the elders. You can accept it? If you don't accept it, your grandmother and Grandma Lan will feel unhappy, not happy anymore. Sister Chi is right, Bai Qianjiao said, hurry up and accept it. Thank you, Grandma Lan. He Tian carefully wrapped the two bracelets and put them in her bag, reminding herself to handle them with care, as these are extremely valuable things. Grandma Chi-san saw that although Bai Qianjiao's eyes were red, her face was full of smiles, and she must have recognized He Tian. Well, now that your grandparents and grandchildren have recognized each other, there will be many opportunities to get along with each other in the future, Grandma Chi-san said. Now let's go to the theater. Okay, Bai Qianjiao agreed and stepped forward to support Grandma Chi-san. Tian, let's go together. Hey, He Tian agreed and followed them to the original box to watch the show. He Tian was looking at it carefully, but He Tian vaguely understood. But today I received a lot of information in my mind. For a while, my mind was so chaotic that I couldn't listen to it at all. After listening to the play, Bai Qianjiao invited everyone to have dinner at a high-end restaurant in Chinatown. During the dinner, he kept adding dishes to He Tian. When it was time to say goodbye, Bai Qianjiao said, Sister Chi, would you like to come to my house with your grandson and granddaughter as a guest tomorrow? If it weren't for the worry that He Tian was not used to it, Bai Qianjiao would have packed up He Tian's things at Chi's house and brought them back. It didn't matter if he didn't bring anything with him. There was nothing missing at home, so he could go directly. Okay, Grandma Chi-san agreed, I'll go to your house tomorrow. Bai Qianjia was very happy when she heard Grandma Chi-san's affirmative answer. At the same time, she was a little disappointed because she found that He Tian and Sister Chi were relatively close. But this is understandable. She has only been He Tian's grandmother for a day. The seventh sister has been with He Tian for more than 2 years, so naturally they are closer to each other. After arriving at home, He Tian went back to the house to rest and sort out her excited and chaotic thoughts. Grandma Chi-san stood on tiptoe, knocked on the door and came in. Grandma, why are you here? He Tian was wiping her hair. Don't you want to rest? You can rest anytime. I'm here to see my granddaughter. Grandma Chi-san smiled and said, you know your grandmother, what do you think? He Tian thought for a while and said, my mind is in turmoil. Grandma, she wants us to come to country M, but I don't want to stay here. So Grandma said that she is going to the country to meet my father. Hey, Grandma Chi-san sighed, I understand how the mother misses her son. It is normal for her to have these thoughts. Yes, I understand, He Tian said, but you also know that because my grandfather has overseas connections, our family has been reported. If there is another capitalist grandmother in country M, our family will not be able to live in peace. Haha, you are right, Grandma Chi-san said, your uncle Shuliang has already passed the Ming Road. It will not be easy to go back, let alone your grandmother. Yes, He Tian said with a bitter face, domestic policies change at any time. If something happens, our family of 3 will have hard times. Seeing He Tian's sad face, Grandma Chi-san comforted her and said, things haven't reached that point yet. Let's do this. I'll call you later and ask Yang Jun to come over and you can talk to him. After all, you will be a family in the future, and as officials, they understand some policies better than we do, and they may be able to find appropriate solutions. That can only be like this, He Tian said, don't worry, your uncle Shuliang will also help you find a solution. I hope there can be a proper solution, Grandma Chi-san said, by the way, why did you accept your grandmother so quickly? Hey, every time my father mentions my grandmother, he hopes that she is alive and well. Now that my father no longer resents me, I have no reason to resent him, He Tian said. If she didn't recognize it, the thought in her heart can't get over the hurdle. In this world, apart from Grandma Chi-san's family and Huo Yingji's family, He Tian only has 2 blood relatives, her parents. Now suddenly there is a biological grandmother who is related to you in the world. She wants to recognize her, not for anything else but because she wants to have another relative. The above 2069 words text. Kixinko's first completed novel A Horsewoman, after the special police officer Tai Muking was reborn, armed with 2 broadswords, a soft bow, and a scarf on his head, he hoed the strong and helped the weak, and was not afraid of power. A horsewoman could also protect her. Defend the country. Let's see that Tai Muking can not only go to the battlefield, but also go to the hall and make a name for himself. The Sweetness of the 70s. Author, Chi Sing Cao. Chapter 392. 390. She was right that Tian was a kind and open-minded woman. You are right to think like this. If you are open-minded, everything will not be troubled, Grandma Chi-san said happily. He Tian is a kind child and is so filial to an old woman like her. How could he embarrass his own grandmother? Well, I remember Grandma's words, He Tian nodded. Only with an open mind can you stand tall and see far. Your grandmother is also a poor person, and we don't know what happened back then. Like me, she is over 60 years old, and she still has a few years to live. Grandma Chi-san recommended others by herself, hoping that He Tian would follow her. Accept Bai Qianjia from the bottom of my heart. Cherish the people in front of you, He Tian smiled, I know everything, Grandma, don't worry about me. Haha, that's okay, Let everything take its course, don't keep everything in your heart. Grandma Chi-san said, blow dry your hair before going to bed, otherwise you will suffer in the future. I got it, Grandma. He Tian sent Grandma Chi-san out. After a conversation with Grandma Chi-san, He Tian figured it out. Be open-minded and go with the flow. Feeling relaxed, He Tian quickly fell asleep. As for her dry hair, He Tian didn't care. In the evening, Huo Yingjun came over. After having dinner together, Qi Shuliang called Huo Yingjun and He Tian to the study. When Huo Yingjun heard that the famous Bai Qianjiao was He Tian's grandmother, he almost spit out the tea in his mouth. Cough cough cough, Huo Yingjun coughed repeatedly and took out a handkerchief to cover his mouth. After a while, Huo Yingjun regained his composure and asked in disbelief, Tian, tell me again, is it true or false? It's true. He Tian nodded. If you think what I said is a bit false, you can ask Uncle Qi. Huo Yingjun looked at Qi Shuliang. Qi Shuliang nodded. Although this matter is difficult, it is not impossible to handle. Huo Yingjun said, in 2 months, Mr. Qi will return to his hometown to worship his ancestors. Your grandmother can also go there, but claim to be Grandma Qi's cousin. As for the private underneath, how do you recognize each other? It's all your family's business. It's up to others not to look for it. This is the safest and fastest way. Professionals are different, and they immediately thought of this roundabout method. Hey, our family was investigated all day long because of our overseas connections. I was scared. He Tian said, I hope we can get through it safely this time and not be reported. Haha, those who are under investigation are also because the country is not clear about it. But your situation is special. Even if you hide it, it is to hide it from those who have ulterior motives. As for the people above, they cannot hide it no matter what. Qi Shuliang and He Tian both knew who Huo Yingjun was talking about. But this is fine, at least they have passed the clear path, and as long as their family has value, everything will be fine. He Tian could tell from Huo Yingjun's amazed tone that her grandmother was also a powerful person. That's right, handsome brother, thank you very much. He Tian said. There is another reason that Huo Yingjun did not mention. In fact, He Tian's identity as grandmother is even more respected and even feared. First of all, during the anti-Japanese war, Mr. Bai donated most of the proceeds of the Bai family in addition to leaving necessary investments. Secondly, Bai Yuqiang is close to the mainland. Although she has no direct contact, she also played a certain role in the establishment of diplomatic relations between China and the United States. No wonder the second uncle's family likes He Tian so much. Not only does he come from a scholarly family, but he also comes from a patriotic family. Indeed, as my grandfather said, the Huo family was born with mud legs. Compared with the He family and the Bai family, they were truly mud legs. With Huo Yingjun's answer, He Tian felt slightly reassured. After Bai Qianjiao returned home, she immediately ordered the servants to clean up the room without caring about rest. She wanted to prepare a princess room for her granddaughter. Pandan was also very excited and a little impatient. The two of them personally directed the servants to prepare. Some things were old and all were replaced with new ones. Some of the items were so good that Xianglin couldn't bear to throw them away, so she asked the maid to sort them out so that if anyone at home needed them, they could take them back. These are all good things that ordinary people simply cannot afford. Even if they are used by the employer, these are cleaned and taken home, which not only saves money but also has good quality. Ms. Brown selected several stuffed animals and 2 exquisite quilts, which were just right for her son and daughter. By evening, an exquisite princess room had been tidied up. The wardrobe contains clothes and shoes for all seasons, spring, summer, autumn, and winter. The next day, Grandma Qi-san took He Tian and Qi Zhenmin as guests. As for Qi Zhengan, he had to prepare for the start of school and had no time to follow. Furthermore, this place was full of women, and it was a gathering of women. It was not easy for him, a grown man, to follow them there. Qi Zhengan was thinking about good things. Now that he Tian recognized his grandmother, would he not leave? As long as he stays in country M, he will have more opportunities. Although he Tian already had a fiancée, he was coveting her from the side and was very shameless, but he couldn't control his heart, so he decided to pursue He Tian. He Tian is a woman who is very serious about emotions and is also a very sensitive person. No matter what kind of feelings Qi Zhengan had for her, she didn't have the energy to deal with it, so she rarely spent time with Qi Zhengan alone, and there were always other people present. When they arrived at the Xian family's mansion, the architecture inside was no worse than that of the Qi family, and it was because Bai Qianjiao's demand for high quality of life made her more demanding. The house was stuffy, so Xianglin moved the reception area outside. Under the shade of the tree, the round table was covered with white cloth, on which were many snacks, food, and champagne. "Grandma Bai, your place is really beautiful," Qi Zhenmin praised. "It's better than the scenery at our home." "Thank you for the compliment, just like you like it, treat it as your own home, don't be polite." Bai Qianjiao smiled. "Sister Qi, come and play often in the future." He Tian ate snacks and looked around. Such an environment was unique and very beautiful. The beauty of Qijia village is all original, which is completely different from here. "Sister, I heard from my son that you are usually very busy. Now it's a weekday, don't you want to work?" Grandma Qi-san asked. She learned from her son yesterday that Bai Qianjiao is not an ordinary woman. She is better at business than men. She has vision and courage. Bai Qianjiao smiled and said, "I have to go to work on weekdays, but I recognize my granddaughter and want to see Tian more." "Haha, I understand your feelings," Grandma Qi-san said. "I want to spend more time with my relatives." The above is 2041 words of the main text. Recommended Kikai's completed novel Wine Lady, the story of wine master Du Jiamei who traveled through time and space, while making a fortune by brewing wine, and fighting with the best.